Welcome to another episode of the Goalkeeper Secrets podcast with your host, Matt Rayla. And for this episode, I got a special guest with me. I'm actually at his house in Huntington. We're having a glass of wine.
Yes, we are.
Get the juices flowing. But
first secret of being a goalkeeper.
Right, exactly.
Above 21.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to have Trey Mitchell on the podcast today, and he's going to talk to us about his story and what it takes to be a professional goalkeeper and you know, anything below that and beyond that. And so I'm super excited for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely. So before we get started, let's talk about you and kind of your career and how you got started as playing soccer and being a goalkeeper.
Yeah, man. Ultimately, it really started back in, the late days of high school. Back in 2009, senior year of high school, out of nowhere, just kind of decided to jump in the ring and give soccer a try. Almost just out of the cafeteria one day, having a chit chat with some friends.
Wow.
I mean, I definitely played like ASO and what have you, but really after that, there was a small little club stint, maybe for a year when I was young, and then jumped back into it in 2009. And very quickly after that, found myself climbing the ladder and
when you played ASO and you played a club, were you always a goalkeeper?
It was the mixed bag.
Okay.
Pretty much anywhere on the field during ASO, without question.
Right.
I'm sure it was just have fun, put the ball in the back of the net.
So when you were a senior, what drew you to being a goalkeeper? Did you know that's what you wanted to do, or you're just like someone steered you in that direction?
Yeah, almost, just because that was the only thing I could play.
Right.
I showed up with like runners, I think, the first day senior year, and sure enough, they just threw me in goal. That was where they really needed somebody to just at least stand there and turn into.
Isn't that funny how like some teams, like the goalkeeper is such an afterthought? They're like, oh, if you just need someone to stand in there. You know what I mean? Like you would never think that about a field player. Like, oh, we just need someone to stand at the top and kick the ball in the goal.
It's an interesting dynamic depending on, I guess, really where you find yourself in terms of the levels of soccer. But yeah, you're definitely not wrong.
Right. Yeah. It's. I think it's funny sometimes how much of an afterthought goalkeepers are.
Yeah, 100%.
So you did a senior year in high school, and then what happened after that?
So senior year of high school, to be short in just terms of that time frame, I guess, really it was just fighting to see if I could do it. And so happened to find out that I could when I was in high school. God willing, the head coach gave me a chance to beat out their number one that they had. And so sure enough, that ended up happening, and very quickly found myself saying, hey, I really like this, and I actually have a passion for it. So decided to pursue college with that as a very high focus. Obviously wanting to go to college to get a degree and what have you, but definitely wanted to make sure soccer could be involved if at all possible. So I went to a junior college, Citrus College.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's a good lesson for goalkeepers out there, or for any soccer players, is like, you don't have to play it your whole life for it to be your passion. You know what I mean? Like, you found that passion in a very short amount of time, and you were able to capitalize on it just by being, like you said, you were focused.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's being focused, but to just finding something that I loved. That was something that was, big. And that was what took me as far as I took it, was because I loved it so much.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because there's a lot of pressure on younger kids today to like, oh, they need to play club at 10 years old and play for this amount of this, playing at the best level from the super young age, and they need all this time to develop, when really they can develop in a short amount of time if they're focused enough. So you shouldn't feel like you're late to the game. Like, did you ever feel that? Did you feel like this might be too late for me to even try?
Yes and no. I would say once I got to, maybe in the NCAA level, separated from junior college. So not necessarily can say in general college, but if you look at it from the perspective of once you got into the NCAA world, granted I was in Division II, but it was a very high level. Right. And that was where I started thinking to myself, okay, there is a difference here. Right. And that's what caused me to really turn it up, because I was definitely in love with the game at that point in time. Right. And I knew, I got a taste of like, okay, wow, now I'm seeing what's going on in all of these different worlds of soccer and where these other players are looking to go, whether it be national champions of a Division II NCAA team or take it to the next level and go play pro. So that was where it was like, okay, I love this game. I see what these guys are doing, and the differences here is I don't have the experience, right? But I can work my ass off, right? And then I hit the go button.
Yeah, I talk a lot about that on the podcast. I call it being relentless.
Yeah, 100%.
Being relentless. Like if you train relentlessly outside of just team trainings, and you work hard with your goalkeeper coach, you work hard on your own, you can get to where you want to go. So you, after Citrus, you went to Dominguez Hills.
Yep.
Did you transfer?
After Citrus, Dominguez. Yep.
Yeah. How did you transfer after 2 years or 1 year?
No, it was actually I played 2 seasons at Citrus.
Okay.
And then very quickly after the second season, Dominguez Hills called and gave me the opportunity to come and play and jump on board for, I think, the spring season after my sophomore season at Citrus.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you went to Dominguez Hills. What was that like playing for a Division II team?
It was, again, like I said, it was just, it definitely was a step above, without question, where I originally was at Citrus. But it was also getting into the ring of where it's starting to, I guess the best way I could put it is it's starting to show me what soccer can really be in a higher level. Right. Best way I could put it, and probably to keep it as easy as possible.
Right. Yeah, because Division II soccer in California is still great.
Yeah.
Like there's
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know what the level is now, but back when I was there in 2000, I think I started with them in 2011, maybe. 2011, that was at a point in time where still college was somewhat relevant and not an afterthought from the whole, soccer ecosystem throughout the United States. Now it may be a little bit different. I am a little disconnected, though, in the last couple of years in what's going on in college.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, because I coached at Sonoma State for the past 8 years, and watching the talent that comes through, it's like a lot of the players that we have in Division II, they're D1 skilled level players. They just don't have the D1 size or the speed or strength. Yeah. They're all technically able to play for a Division I program. Not all of them, but a lot of them could play in D1. Just for whatever reason, it didn't.
Yeah,
they didn't have size, speed, whatever it was. Yeah, they just couldn't make it.
Even at the college level, and I know you spent a lot more time in it in terms of coaching and understanding that dynamic. But I know even at the college level, a lot of reason why D2 players at certain levels within that division, a lot of reasons why those players are there is because they just didn't have the grades.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't have the grades. I mean, our team, we would take people that literally they were barely getting through junior college. Right. But these kids were on radars of, Chivas USA at the time, within their U23 system, maybe within their reserve system. And these are players that are 20 years old, can still play. They want to get game experience and maybe somewhere where they can go compete and still kind of check off the box for school. So sometimes those clubs or wherever they're at release them into that division, and they're really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's great players. I mean, I know at Sonoma State we've had a good amount of players go and play pro after playing for us. Which is awesome. So if you're young, let's say you're 12, 13, 14 years old, and you have aspirations of playing at a higher level, you don't need to think, I need to play D1 or it's a bust. or I can't go further. It's
Yeah,
really
without
not
question.
the
I mean,
case.
even just in terms of, whatever level you play at within college, as long as you're playing and doing whatever you need to do, at any given moment you could be within the right or in front of the right person, and they have a connection with somebody else. They have a connection with somebody else, and you could find yourself, in a reserve system or something of that nature.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you played at Dominguez Hills, and you did pretty well there. Like, did you say you had like a successful stint there? Or no.
Nah, I mean, depends on who you ask, I guess.
Right. Well, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I definitely had to go through a lot. I had to go through a lot to get to what I got, not to rhyme.
Right.
But it was definitely the best experience that I got was just the learning experience of it all. Mm-hmm. And also the effort that it took to get the minutes that's most important. Mm-hmm. And that was something that really was tough to... I don't want to say it wasn't a tough pill to swallow, mm-hmm. but it was a very tough thing to learn and make it something that you can overcome, because it's not easy,
right?
Especially when you're in a system that's not handing it out to you. And
right.
when I say not handing it out to you, you're not the guy. You weren't the guy coming in, and it took a lot to stay the guy when they gave you the opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I talk about that a lot.
That was kind of a rant.
Right. No worries. No, it's a good point. I think it's a good lesson for young goalkeepers. Is like you have to stay ready. You need to always be ready for when your opportunity comes, 100%. And then you need to hold on to it. So the keeper above you gets hurt, they get a red card or something like that. You can't be wallowing on the sidelines that you're not playing.
Yeah,
you have.
And
to
it's
be
brutal.
Ready. Yeah,
that's kind of why I went on the rant, is trying to protect what it really was. I mean, it was dark. Like there was a lot of times where it was just not easy, whether it was physically, mentally. Just so many different things can be thrown at you unexpectedly, and also sometimes things that you deserve, because it's a tough grind, and it's literally when you're at that level, it takes 24/7.
Yeah, what's interesting is like being a keeper coach, you see that. Yeah. You can see when they're frustrated and they're going through a hard time, and you can see it in training. Mm-hmm. Like they're just kind of moping around. They don't really. You can tell they're not really present, and they don't, because they feel like they're not getting their just due. They're not getting noticed, but really it's like there's a lot of factors going on, and you just kind of have to. It's one of those things you just have to wait your turn.
Yeah,
it's hard, and that's extremely hard to do, especially as a goalkeeper, because it's one position.
And so that's so funny that you say just one position, because in my mind I was thinking about. Not even the difficulties within the sport and being a goalkeeper and going through what you're going through within your team and all that, but also just in life in general, because now at that level, more likely than not, a high percentage of those players in that situation, they're out there on their own now, without their families, without being able to be comforted through that. They're, whatever it is, whatever comfort they had back in that time when they were at home, they're not anymore. And it's a whole. It factors into what's going on in your mind.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And you're young.
Yeah, and you're young. You're in college. You're in a different environment. There's a lot of things going on around you. Plus, you got to study. You got to go to class and do that whole thing. So it's a lot. So, what was your mindset as you ended at Dominguez Hills? Like once you finished there, what were you thinking?
Definitely. What do I need to do to sign a contract?
Right.
And who do I need to get in front of? And
where did that thought come from? Did that come from like coaches at Dominguez Hills, or what other people were telling you?
No, that came from when I fell in love with it. Probably. Yeah.
You're like
right around the first season after junior college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're just like, okay, like this is what I want to do for the near future.
But then the big reason was too is because, after I learned really what it meant to be a goalkeeper in that first year of junior college, again, knowing what it meant to be a junior college goalkeeper and now seeing what others look like, again, in the NCAA pro and so on and so forth. That was when I started researching, all right, how can I get better? And that drew me into finding a private goalkeeper coach, and who you obviously know very well of is Ian Foyer.
Right.
And so that was a huge blessing in my life to come across him. And so that was also a catalyst into showing me there's an opportunity in what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And that came from a perspective of somebody with his caliber, his pedigree, so many things. And so that was the light bulb then and there.
Right.
Like, let's go.
That's almost like validation.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely think it's necessary for especially for goalkeepers. Like, you almost need that mentor, that keeper coach, that trainer to help you get to the next level. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
You can't just do it with a head coach. You can have the best head coach in the world. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make you a better goalkeeper. It's like you need that hyper-focused attention. Yeah. Which, first, if you didn't live in this area, let's say you live in, you went to college in a small town, it's like, what are your options for a great goalkeeper coach? You just kind of have to be, like you said, blessed to be around that. But what would you say to a goalkeeper who feels like, I don't have a goalkeeper coach near me that can help me get to the next level? What would you tell them to do, or like what would be their next steps?
I'm doing my best to put myself in the shoes of somebody that I don't have a full understanding of, maybe the reasons why they don't have full access to somebody like an Ian, maybe not necessarily an Ian, but somebody that is at a level.
It could be financial. It could be
I would definitely say, and I say this the easiest way I can, and the best way I can is just that if you really want it, you're gonna figure it out.
Right.
And I think that could go for anybody in any situation. So if you really want it, you're gonna go figure it out. And then if not, I mean, candidly, you're listening to a podcast that you know how to get in touch with a Matt Ryla or myself, and we can also figure it out for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I've said on previous episodes is, hey, if you don't have access to one, contact one that they don't even have to be in your state. You can contact them, ask them questions. Hey, I don't have a goalkeeper coach in my area. Could you help me in these areas? Could you send me a video of how to do this kind of stuff? Or,
And that's a life lesson too.
Yeah, it's a life lesson.
That's just networking 101. I mean, like I said, in this world, if you want something, you can go get it. You just got to be willing to do the work.
Right.
Whether it be networking, calling somebody, or putting yourself out there, or whatever needs to happen.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, going back to training with Ian, as we both know, training with Ian, like obviously the technique was world class, and the the type of training that we did. But to me, I'm sure this is the same with you. To me, what helped me the most working with Ian was the mental side. Yeah, helping me to understand what it meant to be a goalkeeper and everything that came with it, and how to kind of just let go of failures and move past that, and to how to deal with coaches or how to deal with tryouts. He always had some wisdom to give you. Like if you did a training session with Ian, you're like, hey, I got a tryout coming up, and he would just like break it down for you. All right, this is how you need to approach it, this is how you need to go into the tryout. And I thought that was the most valuable thing that I got from it, besides just the technique. But what did you get the most from working with Ian, or someone like Ian?
Yeah. I would say what I really grasped from him, and this is from looking at it from a 30,000 foot view, and for working with him for just multiple years. And at times, multiple days out of a week. He is really good at teaching you to teach yourself. And when I say that, he gets so deep into the technique and the reason why that you understand everything else. And when I say everything else, it's you understand the process of doing what he's trying to teach you. And when you do understand that, that's when you start teaching yourself. And that's what helped me just really go down the rabbit hole and continue to pursue whatever I was pursuing within college, professional, and so on and so forth later on into beyond retirement and even coaching now, that I literally know the ins and outs and I know what needs to be done. I just so happen to not be able to truly do it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's an amazing point. I feel the same exact way, because he would break things down to you, and then what was awesome was he didn't have to coach you anymore. At a certain point, he didn't really need to coach you. Exactly. He just needed to set up and do the session with you.
He would just ask very well put specific questions. So well, and then let your mind just oh my gosh, okay, what am I going to do here? And then bam, you find the answer 3 reps or so after.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson for other young coaches out there, is you don't need to always just spell it out. Sometimes you need to let the players figure it out, even if they're getting frustrated, and even if they don't get it right away. It could be a month before they understand the concept. Sometimes you don't need to just like lay it out in front of them and then yell it. Like if you're just screaming the answer at them, it's not going to sink in the same way. They might get it immediately because they're scared and they're like, oh shit, I got to do this right. But then it's going to go away.
And that just comes from maturity in the position itself, and that comes also from the level that you are. I don't want to say coached, because that's can be very subjective.
Right.
But it's also, I don't know, just the information that you're receiving.
Right.
It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So you finished at Dominguez Hills, you're training with Ian, and you're looking to sign a contract.
Yeah.
How does that go?
I mean, in terms of how it went for me, or how does that go, just the process itself?
No, how it went for you.
Whew, that was rocky. I mean,
the players out there need the rocky.
I know.
They need to know the rocky stuff.
I mean, I was, again, at that time, it was 2013. I mean, really starting to play soccer in 2009. That's, you do the math, that's pretty much 4 years after I
that's pretty incredible.
Went from runners to cleats with gloves on.
Right.
So I didn't have a lot going for me. I just had really the knack to get it done and the understanding of what it took to get it done. And I just made it happen. There was a lot that needed to take place. I mean, God really gave me the opportunity to be in the right places at the right time. And then also, early on, I got cut from my first trial with Louisville. I was down there for a month, and I was literally, my agent was saying it was about ready to get done. And sure enough, a week later, some goalkeeper gets available from North Carolina. He's out of contract, and they end up signing him. So I got sent home, and then a week later.
It wasn't anything it wasn't like you weren't training well, or?
I mean, whatever it was, I wasn't good enough for them to sign.
Right.
But there's no excuse, like point blank. It doesn't matter, really, when it comes down to it. At that point in time, you were not good enough for them to let you put pen to paper for them.
Right. Yeah, sometimes, you could do everything right and things are just out of your control.
Yep. That is like 100% the dead honest truth. Yeah.
So you get cut from the trial. Now what? Are you thinking, all right, I really need to get this contract now. I need to push harder. Or are you kind of like, damn, do I need to rethink what I'm doing?
It was tough because I mean, one thing that I had to think about was I was getting cut from a franchise club that was getting brought into the USL. Mm-hmm. It was their very first year, and again, the USL. I mean, there's nothing after the USL. You think, all right, well, I wasn't good enough to get signed in the USL. What am I going to do?
So you got cut from your trial. Now what? Yeah, where do you?
Yeah, no.
What's your next step?
Running through my mind was, all right, I got cut from the USL. There's not much under that.
Right.
And again, this is just from remembrance and now also knowing what I know. there's not much money after the USL, so I need to go make money. I'm going to be on my own, and I am on my own, so I got to provide for myself. And I never stopped talking to people and made sure my agent was doing so too, but also I was also being my own agent.
Right.
So, and this is like a true God story. I mean, literally a week later, I get that phone call from the Galaxy, and they said, hey, we need you to be here because Brian Perk, he ended up breaking his ankle. And so
wow.
It was just the network.
So how were you staying in contact? Like, were you just like emailing them, or you going through Ian? Like, what?
Yeah. At that time, it wasn't a direct like, hey, I was back in Louisville, directly hit him. They had me on file already.
Gotcha.
So I was already on a scouting report.
Gotcha.
And when Brian broke his ankle, Andrew Wolverton, who they drafted, was also in an injured reserve list, and so they weren't able to activate his contract. So that's where then they pulled me from the scouting report as available, and then called me. And they didn't even know I had an agent.
Wow.
Yeah, they called me, so I called my agent.
All right. You're like,
and
hey.
I called my agent. I was like, dude, you'll never believe this. And he's like, yeah, get that guy here. Like,
right.
No way. And I was like, dude, definitely was. And he said, all right, let me call you back.
Wow. So what's going through your mind? Like, you're like, holy shit! Like, are you nervous, or are you like, all right, this is it?
I was nervous. Yeah, I was definitely nervous the day I got there because I mean that was a big jump. But also, I mean, I was definitely ready because I stayed ready and I was preparing for the last 4 years.
You didn't stop training,
nonstop. Yeah, like nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so how was that? Going into Galaxy and training with them?
Yeah, it was definitely insane, dude. Like there was no experience like it, and it was literally like getting thrown in the choppiest, deepest, darkest waters you could ever think of, man. Like it was literally.
How did the other players receive you and the other goalkeepers?
They were cool because they knew I was gonna work my freaking ball sack off.
Right.
Sorry for saying that. They knew I was gonna absolutely work my ass off. Right. Because that's what I was there to do. They knew that is what I was there for too, and also they all know the opportunity I was getting, and way back in the day, they all understand because they went through it as well.
Right, that's cool. That's a good experience. So, how long were you there for?
With the Galaxy?
Yeah.
I was with them officially for like maybe 3 months or something like that, and then how did it work? Then one other contract got activated, and because I was at a certain age, the MLS just works in wild ways. Because I was at a certain age, they couldn't hold on to my contract because I would count against the salary cap, I think, at the time.
Gotcha.
So and again, that just means that I wasn't good enough for them to say, that's not a problem for us.
All right.
So, but I was good enough for them to stay around, and they wanted to figure out how to keep me around. And they didn't want to put me on the USL contract because I would have slashed my salary. And they ended up putting me under what's called the MLS pool goalkeeper contract.
Okay.
And so I was able to stay with the Galaxy, and they were able to keep me around. And then that just meant that if we were 100% healthy, they didn't need me to stay. I could get loaned out to any other club within the MLS that needed a goalkeeper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happened? So before we get to that, like you said, you went in there to work hard and just work your ass off and do everything you need to do. But what's your mindset going through that? Are you thinking like, I'm working here because I want to start. I want to be a starting goalkeeper. Or are you working here because that's my job? I came here to just work hard and show up.
Yeah, definitely. You want to play.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was a point in time early on that it wasn't even a thought because I knew it was so far away.
Right.
So my focus was just the next day. My focus was or I apologize, my focus was the day that was going on and just making sure I was better than the day before.
Right. And when you're in the trainings with, playing with, you're doing small sided games, you're doing drills, like, are you feeling like, oh wow, like I'm on this level?
Not in the beginning, dude. Not even close. Like, not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I mean,
was like the speed of the game, and you're just like adjusting to
every single aspect.
Yeah.
Every single aspect.
Okay.
The only thing that felt under control after a few days was just goalkeeper training in general.
Right.
In terms of play, that was I don't even know how to explain it. It was literally like walking into the middle of a NASCAR race. If you just walk right through the lanes and cars are just all over.
Just chaos.
Just chaos.
Yeah.
Absolute chaos.
Right. But sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to be put through the chaos.
Deep, dark, uncharted, choppy waters, and it's a sink or swim environment. Because if you sink, you're somebody that's irrelevant. I was somebody that is so irrelevant if I don't do well, because it doesn't affect them whatsoever.
Right.
It's, hey, if he's going to be good, great. If he's not, who cares?
Right. Yeah. That's I think a lot of kids or younger not even kids, but just younger goalkeepers can relate to that. Mm-hmm. You could be at any level. You could be a rec league player going into a club tryout and feeling the same feeling you're feeling of being in those dark, choppy waters.
Yep.
And it's like, how do you muster up the confidence to like really show up? But I think what helps the most is like we were talking about earlier about training. You trained so hard for 4 years and you worked so hard that it was second nature to just be a goalkeeper. Like if you just showed up on it, you might have been nervous, like, well, I don't know if I can do this, whatever. But as soon as you show up on the field, you're just activated. All right, I'm a goalkeeper. I'm just doing my job, and you're working hard. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important for kids and younger goalkeepers to remember that, like, if you train hard enough and you build up your techniques and your understanding of the game, you could be put into any position and you can rely on that. Mm-hmm. You can rely on your ability to perform. Mm-hmm. So did you feel like that helped you, like just being a goalkeeper with the training that you had, being in that environment, where you felt like, I maybe there's some other goalkeepers, maybe their technique wasn't as good as yours, but they had something else that you like experience or whatever.
I would say without question, it's just doing it repetitively, nonstop for as long as your body can do it. And then once you get to a certain age, God willing, your listeners, no matter where they are in their walks of life, being a goalkeeper, whatever position they may play within soccer or anything in life, once your body can't do it, then you need to rest. You need to be smart.
Right.
But leading up to being a pro, and then also as I was a pro, it was just even, it was every bit of work that I did before that times 2, because now you're putting money in your bank account and you are...
It's a different level.
Yeah, you're putting food on your plate.
Right.
But before that, the reason why I was able to do it was because I was also had an understanding of what it meant to be a pro and what they do. And I started that before I got the opportunity.
Got you. Right. That's great. I actually just did an episode on that. It's called "It's Never Too Early to Be a Professional."
Exactly.
So you could be 12 years old and you can act like a professional. You can carry yourself as a professional. You can train and treat your body like a professional. Mm-hmm. You don't need a contract to do that. Mm-hmm. I did a full episode on that. I think that's super important. Even outside of being on the pitch, like the way you carry yourself with your coaches, the respect that you have for the other players, and your interactions with them. Coaches notice that, and managers will notice that. They're like, this guy's a dick. He doesn't get along with anyone. He talks back to the coach. I don't want to keep this guy around. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think that's super important.
Yeah, 100%. And it goes without saying that anybody can do and prepare the way pros were, such as the Iker Casillas or Zach Steffen, or for goalkeepers, obviously, in America for Zach Steffen, or any of these players that are out there now, they all came from total different walks of life. Just all sorts of walks of life. And really, they all have one thing in common, that they figured it out.
Right.
I would recommend that somebody that's listening and wanting to truly find the answer, to that question and all that kind of stuff, is just finding somebody you can relate to that's done it and replicate what they've done.
That's a great piece of advice. Find someone to look up to that inspires you, and
100%.
Find something to relate to them about. Because if you can relate to it, then you can be like, okay, if they can do it, I can follow in their footsteps, and I can. But if you look at, if you're really young, you might look at a De Gea or something and say, oh my God, like I can never be at that level. Like they're so far beyond what I could ever get to. But you could find you could be 12 years old and find a college goalkeeper, and you're like, wow, they're amazing.
100%.
That's where I want to be, and you can kind of go off of that instead of just like looking way beyond whatever you think is possible.
Yep.
That's a great point. So after Galaxy, you played more after that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what happened next?
I bounced around to a few other teams within the MLS my first year, and ended up at Sporting Kansas City.
Yep.
And they actually kept me for a while, and they kept me longer than they were supposed to. Wow. It was kind of funny. But so I stayed there for a while, and at the end of it, they were wanting to offer me a contract. But then it got to the point where at that time, I don't remember if it was the transfer window or what have you, but the transfer window shut down, so I wasn't able to sign a contract. And they said, we want you back next year. Next year came around, and they said, where are you with your contract? I was out with AZ United at the time, and ended up not signing with AZ United because my agent said, hey, I think we could still get you back in the MLS. So signed a new contract with the MLS, and Sporting said, we want to keep you as that, and we're just gonna bring you on right away. And so they brought me on right away, and then I stayed in as the pool goalkeeper there, and then they kept me the whole time. And then after that, jumped out to Pittsburgh in the USL, and then that's where I played. Was at Pittsburgh. Yeah.
And what was that experience like playing?
That was what I needed, and that was what I was. That's what I was really thriving for, because I went from senior year of college to the pros within the MLS.
And you're not getting games.
Yeah, not getting games. And that is the most crucial thing for a goalkeeper my age. And I was not getting games. And so that's where I said, all right, I got to go to the USL to go get games, regardless of what anybody says or what my agent says or anything of that nature. So definitely went to Pittsburgh, and that was huge, because that's where it was like, okay, now what I've done for the last 2 years at an extremely high level in comparison to the United States, now I can go apply it to a game scenario.
Right.
And that was something I didn't have for my first 2 years of being pro.
Did you feel like at home being in games, you're like...
First game a little bit. There was a little bit of that, but also just, getting through the nerves. After that, then yes. Then I started playing in good games and started playing well and contributing and getting comfortable, and also applying unequivocally what I knew and what I've been doing for the last, now at that time, 6-7 years straight.
Right.
Now I was applying it in those game scenarios, and it was second nature.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think just from your beginning at your senior year of high school to that point, I mean, that's a short amount of time.
Yeah.
For soccer players in general, typically soccer players nowadays, they're started at 8 years old in club, and then they can go to PDP and national team tryouts at a super young age, and it's pretty wild. But yeah, I think that's an incredible story of just like, it's a good lesson for keepers out there that, you know, you can go through a lot of stages.
Yeah.
You could be the starting keeper at your club. You go to a college team, all of a sudden you're a third string goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that? How do you go from starting at a great club and winning tournaments to being a backup at third string?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you work your way up to first string by your junior year, and then you graduate college, and after that you go to try out for pro teams. Now you're at the bottom of the ladder again.
Yep.
And you know, so it's like this constant up and down, you know, this constant roller coaster that you have to just kind of ride out.
And there's going to be times where you're going to run up into a situation, and I mean, you never want to wish this upon anybody, especially our listeners.
Right.
But there's going to be a situation potentially that you are 2 or 3, and the crappy part about our position is that only one person gets to play, and that's where once you get to a certain level, that's all the coach cares about is who performs the best in 90 minutes.
Right.
And they don't care about what's taking place in training. So if you don't get that opportunity to get in those 90 minutes or 45 or whatever it's going to be,
right. Yeah, the coaches aren't going to look you in your goalkeeping drills and be like, you know what, he's catching the ball better today. It's not going to...
Yeah, exactly. If whoever the player is that's in net for the last 90 minutes, if they did well, more likely than not, they're going to play the next game until there's a reason they shouldn't play.
Right. Or they're just not able to, or they get a red card, or whatever.
And you never know when that moment's going to come. Therefore, you as the 2, or you as the 3, or you as the 4, or you as the pool goalkeeper, or you as the whoever you are, you always got to be ready.
Yeah, you train as if you're the starting goalkeeper. Exactly. Every single session, you show up early. You work through all the drills as hard as you can. You know, you don't slack off because you're like, I'm not going to be playing tomorrow, so why do I need to go through the drills? You know, but it's the opposite. You know, but I remember a quote that you used to say at Ian's camps is
that I used to say.
Yeah,
he
used to say. Oh boy, he used to say. In order to be great, you need to fall in love with the process of being great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I always remember that, and I think it's a great quote because
I appreciate you remembering that.
Yeah, well, it stuck with me because it's so true.
Yeah,
especially with goal. Obviously, any sport, any athlete, you need to fall in love with the process. But if we're talking about goalkeepers, it's like you really need to love training and
100%.
Working on goalkeeper technique and tactics and understanding everything about it, and just love going out to the field and just training. You know, I remember doing that, you know, with you and other goalkeepers. We would just go and train on our own. It was a lot of times there wasn't even a reason for it. We would just go out and train just because we all loved doing it. And it's like that for me was almost like the most fun I had being a goalkeeper, was doing those training sessions.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think if you really fall in love, if you're a young goalkeeper, if you fall in love with training, you're gonna go far. Like, and you have that interest and you have that focus, it's gonna take you a lot of places. But if you don't like working hard and you don't like training and you just think, oh, I'm a gamer, I'm just gonna show up to games and do big, it's gonna catch up to you at some point. You know, it's not gonna last. You may be able to do that when you're young or in high school, but in college and above, it's like you really need to put in that work.
Yeah, it is literally for that amount of time that I did it from, and that was maybe the different, or maybe that's the similarities that I had, is that when I started, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, you started so late. How did you figure it out? It's like, okay, yes, maybe I started late, but when I started, I maybe wasn't there in terms of the level or the skill level, I guess you could say. Without question, I wasn't there in the skill level.
Right.
That would have compared to the same age of player that I was at the same level or whatever. But I instantly started doing what they were doing in terms of practicing and going through, getting coached, all that kind of stuff at a very, 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 very quick time. Right. Within a very quick time. It was a couple weeks, and then boom, I was doing it like a very good player would do it. And then after that, it snowballed into doing it like a college player. Snowballed into doing it like a pro.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's building good habits early on.
Yeah.
Like you built those habits that maybe a player who
I didn't have bad habits to break.
Right. That's a great point as well.
I was a clean slate.
Right. Just a ball of clay.
I was
deformed.
Yeah, I was.
That's a great point. But yeah, like a young goalkeeper, it may take you years of trying to figure out the right habits to have. You have different coaches.
Yep.
You have different trainers. Whatever you have bad habits when you're young, and you build those with you as a soccer player. But if you're starting later a little bit and you have a good mindset and you come in with good habits, that can make a world of difference.
100%.
Yeah, because there's plenty of goalkeepers that were great. They're just naturally gifted goalkeepers, and they're tall, they're athletic.
Yep.
But a lot of them fade out.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And growing up, in high school, college, whatever, you see a lot of goalkeepers, and it's just kind of they don't get past that mental side of it, or they just relied on their natural talent, and that was it. And they're like, "Oh, I can get by."
Yeah, it's just all part of the process. It's just whoever's willing to continue doing it until somebody says yes. And when I say somebody says yes, somebody gives you the contract to be a pro, or somebody gives you the scholarship to play in college, or somebody says you made the team in club or academy or whatever the levels are within the youth systems, and continuing to take it as far as you want to.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I always say on this podcast is you should always be trying to maximize your potential.
100%.
Whatever
always
that
be
is.
Better than yesterday.
Yeah. Whatever. Your goal may be just to play in high school. It may not even be to play in club or academy. But if your goal is to play in high school, then you need to maximize that and be the best high school player or whatever. If your goal is to if you think your potential is to be on the national team, then that's what you work towards.
Yep.
You set that goal, and you put everything you have into that. So yeah, I think another big part of that is training outside of working with your goalkeeper coach and team training. Did you ever do that? Did you ever train on your own? Like just by yourself, just go to the park and train?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really go to the park. The only times I would go to park and train on my own, every single freaking day I was doing something on my own, whether it be in the gym or
you working
whatever.
out.
Yeah, 100%. But in terms of like goalkeeper specific training, yes, it was a lot more just fundamentals and
footwork.
Yeah, footwork, ladders, working with the ball. A lot of distribution. There is so much distribution that you could do on your own, and you should do on your own.
Yeah.
There's just so many different scenarios that you could put yourself through, and also just hitting a good still ball, and also just the simple roll of your feet or whatever. You could get so creative on your own and do distribution, which is so important in today's game
absolutely,
as a goalkeeper.
Today. Yeah.
And I'll tell you for dang sure that was something I did not have, and it took a long time. I probably had for the whole life of my soccer career from day one to retirement, I probably had maybe a year and a half when I could have considered myself a decent distributor of the ball.
Yeah.
It is
especially if you don't grow up doing it.
Yeah, it is not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Working on all the things you can work on your own, you should do it, because your goalkeeper coach is not, when they build a session, they're always going to be able to work on everything, right? You can't, it's only an hour and a half maybe. Or when you're working with your team, you're not going to be able to work on everything. So how do you fit in? You can't just wait for the coaches to come to you and say, hey, we're going to work on your left foot today.
Correct.
It's like, that's not going to happen. So you need to take responsibility for that. Coaches, they're not going to put in that time, especially head coach. Like, they don't care. Well, not that they don't care. They don't have the time to sit with you as a goalkeeper and go through that. So you need to know, hey, these are my weaknesses. I need to go work on that on the days I'm not training with my team or with my goalkeeper coach. And have conversations with your coaches and your goalkeeper coach. Say, hey, how do I work on this on my own?
Yes.
How do I do this? Can you send me some drills?
Yes.
Can you show me some things? And they'll explain it. They'll break it down. Like, yeah, if you want to work on your left foot, this is what you do.
Yep.
And we'll do a little bit in the session, but a goalkeeper coach, they can't do everything for you. There's a lot of stuff you need to do on your own, and you shouldn't just rely on them. I remember when I was in high school, and it was soon after I started training with Ian, he kind of, doing his drills and stuff. He was like, oh, you can do this stuff on your own. And I was like, it was like a light bulb. Oh, really? I can? I was like, hell yeah. So I like went on soccer.com and bought ladders and cones and would just go to the park and do footwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think that made a huge difference in like stepping up my level. It's just doing stuff on my own. Because if you just, on your off days, if you're just playing video games and hanging out with friends, it's like you're kind of losing some other people are going to pass you up.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. There's always, there's definitely always something you could do. And it also comes down to just getting the experience as well. What I want to say is, for everybody that's listening, is if you are a goalkeeper, I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. Across the entire world, there's somebody at so many different ages playing goalkeeper, and they're pretty dang good because they just played a lot of it. They just played a lot of it, whether it be in the dirt streets of who knows what, Uganda, or they're playing in futsal streets out in Brazil, or they're playing beach soccer in Huntington Beach, or they're actually playing true soccer in, Irvine at the polo fields or wherever those are. You can always do something. And really where I'm trying to go with this is something that's extremely important. Important is just getting the games. Yep. Yes, you want to do as much as you possibly can. Technically, you want to do as much as you possibly can in so many different facets of being a goalkeeper. You want to do everything. But something that is so important is just getting the freaking games.
Right.
Getting games. Right. If you're not good enough to play in that game, make sure you go play in the game that you're good enough in playing in.
Right.
And sooner or later, it's just you're gonna.
There's plenty of Sunday leagues and men's leagues.
There is so much. If you're in Southern California and you're not playing at least, depending on where you're at least playing 2 to 3 games a week, you're not gonna do what you need to do.
Right.
And you're not doing what you should be doing.
Right.
Because you can easily play 2 to 3 games in a week, especially when overseas. I mean, I don't know at what age, probably at 10, they're going to maybe be playing, what do you think, 3 games?
Yeah.
3 games for sure.
Right. They're getting their games in.
Yeah, they're for sure getting at least 3 games in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Because the games will teach you everything you need to know. You're gonna mess up.
And when I say games like overseas, it's like reserve games or whatever it is.
Right.
They're playing 90 minutes of something. They're doing something.
Right.
At least I would say maybe on average two times a week.
Right. Yeah, because in games, that's where you're gonna make mistakes, and then that's how you figure out your comfort zone.
It's just where you figure out how to apply it.
Right. You figure out how to apply stuff. You figure out what works for you, what doesn't. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to figure out, find solutions for problems.
I like that. Yeah, definitely finding solutions.
Yeah.
Finding solutions and being very reactive to problems.
Yeah.
Because that is what we're there for. We're there to clean up a mess.
Right.
Really, the best games I have are the games that I didn't have to make a save.
Right. Yeah. Talk your way to a shutout.
Yeah, talk your damn way to a shutout, dude. You can make millions of dollars.
Right.
If you have a shutout every single game and you know how to work a back line, and you in the back line have an understanding how to get the job done,
and
coaches pay for that.
Right, exactly.
Clubs pay for that,
and that's why coaches don't want to move keepers around. If they find a right fit, they don't want to mess with that.
Once there's a comfortable amount of goals not being scored on them, they're not going to want to screw around with that.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I think that covers a lot. I want to end with you telling all the goalkeepers out there, all the young goalkeepers, if there's one thing you would tell them right now to help them as a goalkeeper. It could be anything. You can go in any direction with this.
Yeah. I would say don't fear getting scored on in goal and in life. And make sure you always take no, or don't take no for an answer. Don't settle with no. And it's gonna be a freaking dogfight. Like it's,
right.
I mean, it's not easy. Even the best freaking goalkeepers in the world they had to go through dogfights to get to where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you're more likely going to be in one sooner rather than later if you're not in one already.
Right.
Just keep on fighting. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going.
Right.
Don't stop.
That's great. I think that's incredible insight for young goalkeepers out there.
Yeah.
Is to expect the dogfight's going to come so that you're prepared for it. Like mentally prepare for that. And so when it comes, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're like, okay.
It's supposed to happen.
You're right.
Yep.
And
you're supposed to get out of it. Just go find a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And utilize those around you. You can use your parents, you can use your teammates, friends, goalkeeper coaches, coaches. Yeah. Utilize the people around you. They want you to succeed.
It's a solo position, but you don't do it solo. Like if you get your right network, you will be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. And people will help you get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
You find the right people in your circle, they're going to want to do everything they can to help you.
Exactly.
And, that's how it works. If you're, and that goes back to being professional.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unpleasant and you're not coachable, they're not going to want to help you.
It ain't gonna
no matter
work.
how talented you are.
Yeah. It ain't going to work.
Yeah. So, thank you, Trey, for coming on here. If you want to shout out, if you want them to follow you on any of your socials or anything,
I mean,
you can.
I don't know if you guys want to follow me. I would say just if you want to get a hold of me, probably the best way is just touch base with Matt. You could also, I am on Instagram or whatever at Trey S4G. Yeah, Trey S4G, TREYS4G.
Awesome. So
if you want to hit me up, that's
cool.
fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right on. If you want to get to Trey, you can go through me. You can email me at mgrkeeper@gmail. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook at mgrkeeper academy. That pretty much does it. I would love to have you back on for another episode. Maybe we can
Why not?
touch on some other topics of goalkeeping.
As long as there's wine involved.
Yeah, right. That's I got the wine covered. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.